This is Imperialism number 7, and we are continuing to talk about trying to take over other countries, and China is going to connect to the Philippines. And the reason is the Philippines, if we get control of that, it gets us closer to China. China was a huge market for our products and our railroad production. China had a lot of people back then, so the products that we are making in America, China would open up a huge market. It's basically flip-flopped since then. America is actually a huge market for China. So China at that time in the late 1800s, early 1900s was very, very weak, and they already had foreigners controlling parts of the country, and they were actually known as spheres of influence. All right, so if you look at China in 1910, you can see that these countries down here at the bottom, you got France, Great Britain, Germany, Japan, and Russia, actually had spheres of influence in China. And this is an area where each nation claimed special rights and economic privileges. And so, what the United States does is we have a guy by the name of John Hay. He is our Secretary of State. He writes something called the Open Door Notes. It is a letter to the leaders of these nations and others to basically open up China, to allow them to open up China and propose that all their trading rights they want shared with the United States. All right. So as a result, what happens is China and its markets are now open to all nations. All nations would have equal access to China and its markets, but China remains independent. So you guys might be asking, like, well, why would those other countries want a competing nation like the United States to step in? Well, one of the reasons is tariffs. And so what we're going to see in the early part of the 1900s is tariffs go down, meaning those other industrialized nations can then sell their stuff to the United States and to other countries for a lower price. So this was one of our first big trade deals for multiple countries. And earlier we talked about globalization or globalism, and these countries being interdependent and relying on each other. And this here is one of those first examples of it, and that's the Open Door Note. So basically, this says trade treaty with China. So you see these other countries here. You got France, Spain, Germany, Great Britain. No, that's Spain. I don't know. I'm tired. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm not sure. No, sorry. Spain's back here. This is Spain because this is funny. Spain's not really invited to the party. This is after the Spanish-American War. So we're kind of making fun of them. Like they're back here sharpening their scissors and not even invited. Everybody else is up here ready to go. That's Russia. Got it. France, Russia, Great Britain, Germany, Japan, Spain, United States. Got it. Sorry, that's my bad. And if you can see, everybody else is kind of kneeling. And what that means is that we have more power. You can see they got scissors. We have a sword, so that's showing our strength. We just got in a fight with Spain and won. So we're kind of shoving these nations around here. Here's another one saying that the United States has the key to China. You see these other countries, and it's the ones we were just talking about. They're trying to get in, and we have the key. So what happens is China's going to revolt against all these foreigners coming in. Some Chinese wanted all the foreigners to leave. They pledged to rid the country of the foreign devils. Those people were known as Boxers. All right? They actually called themselves the Righteous and Harmonious Fists. They opposed Christianity, the Chinese power structure, and foreigners. The Chinese power structure, what they're talking about there are the emperors, and the royal family, basically. So what they do is they try to rid all foreign influence in China by violently expelling all foreigners. Violently expelling means killing, for those of you guys that didn't know. So Britain, France, Germany, Japan, they all send troops to end the rebellion. Within 2 months, the Boxers were put down, and the main reason the Boxers get put down so quickly is that they literally bring a knife to a gunfight. All these other countries are sending soldiers over with guns, while the Boxers are basically ninjas, and they are just using swords. So what you see here on this side is what the ninjas look like, the boxers, and over here these are foreigners who have had their heads decapitated. Alright, as a result, the treaty with the boxers was known as the Boxer Protocol. It is signed by China and 11 other countries, and it ends the Boxer Rebellion. This word here, the Sing government, it's kind of like a JSZ type letter there at the beginning. That government agreed to the following. 1, they agreed to execute some of their government officials. 2, they're going to punish other officials. They're going to pay $332 million in damages to other countries. 24.5 of that goes to the United States, but the U.S. gives $20 million back to China. And the reason we do that is to kind of stay on good terms with them. So we give them a lot of that money back. So what we get after the Boxer Rebellion is the second set of open door notes. And what it does is this actually sets up foreign policy for the United States. It says that we depend on exports. What that means is that the United States depends on creating goods in our country and selling them to other countries. That's going to increase our GDP, our gross domestic product. It's going to mean that people in America have jobs and are making money. 2, we can intervene to keep our markets open. What that means is that if somebody tries to not let us do number 1, we can step in. Number 3, closing foreign ports would threaten U.S. survival. So if a country closes their ports to us, that threatens our survival. We go back to number 2 saying we can intervene. Alright, so this here is the foundation of our foreign policy and how we are going to survive as a country. In the next video, we're going to look at the president, what happens to McKinley. We're going to look at some anti-imperialists and the Panama Canal.